Tragedy struck Rachel when her beloved husband, Kevin, died suddenly. In her deepest grief, she sought solace from her own family, only to be cruelly abandoned. Her parents and sister chose a birthday celebration over sharing her immense loss. Even more painfully, they attempted to profit from Kevin's death, demanding a large portion of his insurance money. This story is a poignant testament to familial betrayal and the enduring power of true love. If you've ever felt betrayed by family when you needed them most, please let me know where you're watching from and subscribe to join others who understand this pain. The sudden passing of Kevin dealt a devastating blow to Rachel's life, turning her world and that of her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, into an incomprehensible mess. Just last Tuesday, Kevin, Rachel's 32-year-old husband, was vibrant and full of life. He was the family's pillar, the man she loved more than life itself. Yet now, after a sudden heart attack, he was gone forever. The shock was too immense for Rachel to control her emotions. She called her parents, sobbing uncontrollably, hoping for a shred of comfort, a word of encouragement in her darkest hour. However, what she received from her dear mother was a chilling indifference that was almost unbelievable. The sounds of music and laughter echoing from the other end of the line foreshadowed something terrible. "Rachel, can I call you back later? We're in the middle of Sophia's birthday party," her mother said nonchalantly, her tone rushed and impatient. The feeling of rejection was like a knife twisting in Rachel's heart. Her husband had just died. She was drowning in sorrow. Yet her sister's birthday party was more important than her own daughter's pain? That night, Rachel and Lily clung to each other. Their worlds seemingly crumbled. The house was empty without Kevin's presence, his laughter, the warmth of his embrace. Only the two of them remained, leaning on each other, grappling with an overwhelming loss. Rachel had never imagined her family would abandon her and her daughter in their darkest hour. All her life, she had believed that family was the most solid anchor, a place she could always return to in times of trouble. But now, that belief was shattered. Kevin and Rachel met as sophomores at Northwestern University. He was the charming teaching assistant who patiently stayed after class to help her understand complex depreciation curves in economics. His patience was the first thing she fell in love with, quickly followed by his infectious laugh and the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. They dated through college, and he proposed on graduation day, hiding the ring in her diploma case. They married young at 23, ignoring warnings from friends who said they should experience life before settling down. But Kevin was Rachel's life. He was the person she wanted to experience everything with. After finishing his MBA, Kevin landed a job at a prestigious financial advisory firm in Chicago. He quickly worked his way up, impressing clients with his honest approach and genuine care for their financial well-being. He wasn't just good with numbers, he was good with people. That combination made him exceptional at his job. They spent 5 wonderful years as a couple before deciding to try for a baby. What they thought would be an easy journey turned into 3 years of heartbreak. 2 miscarriages, countless doctor appointments, and 1 failed round of IVF later. They were emotionally exhausted and financially drained. They started discussing adoption when Rachel unexpectedly became pregnant with Lily. The pregnancy was difficult. Rachel was on bed rest for the final 2 months, and Kevin worked from home to take care of her. He'd bring her breakfast in bed, massage her swollen feet, and read pregnancy books aloud to both her and their unborn daughter. When Lily finally arrived, Kevin cried harder than Rachel did, holding her tiny body against his chest like she was made of glass. For 8 beautiful years, they were the family Rachel had always dreamed of. Kevin coached Lily's soccer team despite knowing nothing about soccer. He learned alongside her, watching YouTube tutorials at night after she went to bed. He never missed a school event or a doctor's appointment. His calendar was filled with reminders about Lily's activities, color-coded by importance. There were warning signs about his health that they both ignored. Occasional chest pains he attributed to stress. Shortness of breath he blamed on being out of shape. The doctor said his slightly elevated blood pressure was normal for a man approaching 40 with a high-pressure job. Take some aspirin, exercise more, cut back on sodium. Standard advice they took too casually. The morning it happened started like any other Tuesday. Kevin made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs while Rachel packed Lily's lunch. He kissed them both goodbye, promised to be home early for Lily's school art show, and headed to work. His last words to Rachel were, "Don't forget to pick up more maple syrup. The real stuff, not that corn syrup garbage." Such a mundane final conversation. At 10:47 a.m., Rachel's phone rang. It was Amanda, Kevin's assistant. Her voice was shaking so badly Rachel could barely understand her. Rachel, Kevin collapsed during a client meeting. The ambulance is here. They're taking him to Northwestern Memorial. Rachel remembered dropping her coffee mug. The sound of ceramic shattering on tile seemed to echo in her memory. She called their neighbor Ellen to pick up Lily from school, then drove to the hospital. Breaking every speed limit, she prayed the entire way, bargaining with God in desperate whispers. But she was too late. Kevin was pronounced dead at 11:23 a.m., minutes before she arrived. Massive heart attack, they said. Nothing could have been done, they assured her, as if that made it better somehow. Seeing Kevin's body was surreal. He looked like he was sleeping, except for the unnatural stillness of his chest. His skin was still warm when Rachel touched his face. She kept expecting him to open his eyes, to smile, and tell her this was all a terrible mistake. The next few hours passed in a blur of paperwork and phone calls. The funeral home needed decisions Rachel wasn't prepared to make. Cremation or burial? What kind of service? Did he have a favorite suit? Questions that seemed impossible to answer when all she wanted to do was crawl into bed with her husband one last time. The hardest part was driving home knowing she had to tell Lily that her father was never coming back. How do you explain death to an 8-year-old? How do you tell her that the daddy who made dinosaur pancakes that morning was gone forever? Telling Lily about her father was the most difficult moment of Rachel's life. When she got into Rachel's car after school, she immediately sensed something was wrong. "Where's Daddy? He promised to come to my art show tonight," she said, her backpack clutched in her small hands. Rachel pulled over to the side of the road because she couldn't focus on driving. Turning to face her, Rachel took her hands in hers. "Lily, something very sad happened today. Daddy got very sick at work and his heart stopped working." Her face scrunched in confusion. "Can the doctors fix it?" The innocent hope in her question broke something inside Rachel. "No, sweetie. When someone's heart stops working completely, the doctors can't fix it. Daddy died today." She stared at Rachel for what felt like an eternity. Her blue eyes, so much like Kevin's, processing this incomprehensible information. Then she asked, "Does that mean Daddy isn't coming home ever?" When Rachel nodded, unable to speak through her tears, she let out a wail that didn't sound human. It was primal, the pure sound of a child's heartbreaking. She threw herself into Rachel's arms, her small body shaking with sobs. "I want Daddy. Please, I want my daddy." There was nothing Rachel could do but hold her and cry with her. Parked on the side of the road as life continued all around them, oblivious to their shattered world. That evening, after Rachel had finally gotten Lily to sleep in her bed, clutching Kevin's unwashed t-shirt for comfort, the full weight of her loss hit her. Rachel sat on the bathroom floor, door closed so Lily wouldn't hear, and broke down completely. The physical pain of grief was overwhelming, like being repeatedly punched in the chest. Rachel couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. She needed her mom and dad. With shaking hands, Rachel called her parents. They'd been married for 40 years, had weathered losses together. Surely they would know what to say, how to help her through this impossible time. Her mother answered on the 5th ring, the sound of laughter and music in the background. "Rachel, can I call you back? We're in the middle of Sophia's birthday dinner." "Mom," Rachel choked out, barely able to form words through her sobs. "Kevin died this morning. He had a heart attack at work. He's gone." There was a pause and Rachel heard her cover the phone and say something to someone else. When she returned, her voice was slightly more somber, but still distracted. "Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Are you sure? Maybe there's been a mistake. I saw his body." "Mom, there's no mistake." The fact that Rachel had to convince her own mother that her husband was actually dead felt like another trauma on top of everything else. "Well, this is quite a shock. But sweetie, we're in the middle of Sophia's 40th birthday celebration. Everyone's here. We've got the caterers. Can you manage tonight? And we'll come by tomorrow when things settle down?" Rachel couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her sister's birthday party took precedence over her son-in-law's death, over her daughter and granddaughter's acute grief. Her father got on the phone. "Rachel, this is awful news. Was Kevin's life insurance policy up to date? You should call the company first thing tomorrow." Not, "I'm coming right over." Not, "What can we do to help?" But a question about life insurance while her husband's body was barely cold. "I can't believe this is your response. Rachel said, her voice hollow. My husband just died. Lily lost her father. Now, Rachel, her father said in that condescending tone he'd used throughout her childhood. Sophia has been planning this milestone birthday for months. Everyone took time off work to be here. We can't just walk out. Be reasonable. Reasonable? As if grief followed any rules of reason. Forget I called, Rachel said, and hung up. Within minutes, Rachel's phone was flooded with text messages from friends who had somehow heard the news. Kevin's college roommate Brian, Rachel's colleague Jennifer, even her old high school friend Taylor, whom she hadn't spoken to in years, all offering condolences, asking what they could do to help. Strangers showed more compassion than her own family. Her neighbor Ellen came over with a casserole and sat with her at the kitchen table as Rachel tried to make a list of people to notify. She offered to stay the night, but Rachel declined. She needed to be alone with Lily to start figuring out how they would navigate this new terrifying reality without Kevin. That first night was endless. Lily had nightmares and kept waking up calling for her daddy. Rachel lay beside her stroking her hair and telling her stories about Kevin. About how much he loved her. About how brave he thought she was. Eventually, she fell into an exhausted sleep. But Rachel remained awake, staring at the ceiling. The absence of Kevin's warmth beside her was an unbearable void. Morning came, and with it, the crushing realization that this wasn't a nightmare she could wake from. This was their life now. A life without Kevin. A life where her own parents couldn't be bothered to show up when she needed them most. 4 days after Kevin's death, his funeral was held on a Saturday. Those days passed in a fog of arrangements, paperwork, and attempts to comfort Lily while Rachel herself barely held it together. Her parents called just once briefly to ask what time the service started and whether they should wear black or colorful attire for a celebration of life. They didn't offer to help with any arrangements or ask how Lily was coping. The day of the funeral dawned bright and sunny, cruelly beautiful for such a dark occasion. Lily insisted on wearing a blue dress because, Daddy always said I look like a princess in blue. Rachel helped her with her hair, weaving a small braid along her temple the way Kevin used to do on special occasions. They arrived at the funeral home an hour early to greet people. Kevin's colleagues from the financial firm came first, somber in their dark suits, many of them openly crying. They had lost not just a coworker, but a friend. Each took time with Lily, sharing small stories about her father that she might treasure later. Rachel's parents and Sophia were also supposed to arrive early, but they texted 20 minutes before the service was scheduled to begin, saying they were running late due to traffic. They finally walked in as people were being seated, making a small commotion as they found places in the front row that Rachel had reserved for family. Her mother hugged her briefly, her perfume overwhelming. The traffic was terrible, and Sophia had a hard time finding something appropriate to wear on such short notice. Short notice, as if Kevin's death were an inconvenient dinner party. Throughout the service, Rachel was acutely aware of Sophia checking her phone, her father glancing at his watch, her mother dabbing at dry eyes for show. Meanwhile, Kevin's colleagues and their friends were genuinely distraught, their grief palpable and real. In contrast to her family's detachment, Kevin's brother Marcus showed true devastation. He had flown in from Japan where he taught English, arriving just hours before the service. He looked exhausted and hollow-eyed, having clearly not slept on the 30-hour journey. He sat next to Lily, holding her hand throughout the service, their identical blue eyes filled with tears. When it came time for the eulogy, Rachel wasn't sure she could do it. Her legs felt like lead as she approached the podium. But then she looked at Lily sitting there, so brave and small in her blue dress, and found the strength somewhere. She spoke about Kevin's kindness, his integrity, his boundless love for his daughter. She spoke about his terrible jokes that made them groan and laugh at the same time. About his irrational hatred of cilantro and his passionate defense of proper maple syrup. About the way he always put family first. The bitter irony of those last words wasn't lost on her as she glanced at her parents, who were already gathering their things as she concluded, clearly eager to leave. During the reception at their house afterward, Rachel overheard her father talking to her Uncle James near the drinks table. Kevin was doing very well at that firm. Partner track. The life insurance alone must be substantial, not to mention the investments. Rachel will be set for life. It took everything in her not to confront him then and there, to demand how he could be thinking about money on the day they buried her husband. But she was too emotionally exhausted, too focused on making sure Lily was okay to start a scene. Her mother and Sophia barely helped with the reception, leaving most of the work to Kevin's colleagues' wives and Rachel's friends. They sat in the living room accepting condolences as if they were the primary mourners while Rachel moved through her own home like a ghost, mechanically thanking people for coming, accepting casseroles she would never eat. Meanwhile, Kevin's parents, though devastated by the loss of their only son, were models of genuine support. His mother, Diana, took over caring for Lily during the reception, making sure she ate and protecting her from well-meaning but overwhelming guests. His father, Robert, quietly organized the cleanup afterward, staying until the last guest had left. The contrast between Kevin's family and Rachel's own was stark and painful, as Rachel watched her in-laws support each other in their grief, while also finding strength to support her and Lily. She felt the absence of that same love from her own parents like a physical wound. Kevin's will had been mentioned briefly during a conversation with the funeral director, but Rachel couldn't bear to think about legal matters yet. Thomas, Kevin's friend from law school, who had handled their estate planning, gently suggested they wait a week or two before discussing the details. "There's no rush," he assured her. "Everything is in order, and you and Lily are well provided for." Kevin made sure of that. As the house finally emptied of guests, Rachel's parents and Sophia made quick excuses about getting on the road before dark. They left with perfunctory hugs and promises to call soon. They didn't offer to stay and help clean up, didn't ask if Lily and Rachel wanted company, didn't acknowledge that this would be their first night after officially saying goodbye to Kevin. Instead, Marcus and Kevin's parents stayed. Diana made up the guest room for Kevin's parents and the sofa for Marcus. "We'll be right here if you need anything during the night," Diana said, hugging Rachel tightly. "You're not alone, Rachel, remember that." But as Rachel lay in bed that night, listening to Lily's soft breathing beside her, she couldn't help feeling that, in one crucial way, she was very much alone. The people who should have been her first line of support, her bedrock in a time of crisis, had proven themselves unworthy of that role. 2 weeks after the funeral, Rachel was sitting at the kitchen table trying to make sense of their health insurance situation when the doorbell rang. Lily was at school, her first week back since losing her father. The teachers were keeping a close eye on her and sending Rachel regular updates, for which she was grateful. Through the peephole, Rachel saw her parents standing on the porch, her father straightening his golf shirt, her mother checking her reflection in her compact mirror. Rachel hadn't spoken to them since the funeral. They'd texted a few times with generic messages like, "Thinking of you," and "Hope you're doing okay." But there had been no real communication. Rachel opened the door, not bothering to hide her surprise. "I didn't know you were coming over. We thought we'd check in. See how you and Lily are doing," her mother said, brushing past her into the house. "Is she at school? Good. We can talk openly." That should have been her first clue that this wasn't simply a supportive visit. But Rachel was too emotionally drained to pick up on the warning signs. They settled themselves in the living room while Rachel made coffee, falling into the hostess role automatically, even though they should have been taking care of her. When Rachel brought in the mugs, her father was examining the new sound system Kevin had installed just a month before his death. "Nice setup," he commented, running his hand along the speakers. Kevin had good taste in electronics. He did, Rachel agreed, the simple past tense still a knife twist in her heart. After a few minutes of awkward small talk about Lily's school and her mother's garden club, her father cleared his throat in the way he always did before discussing serious matters. "Rachel, we wanted to talk to you about your situation," he began, setting his coffee mug down precisely on a coaster. "My situation? Your financial situation," her mother clarified, exchanging glances with her father. "Now that you're adjusting to life without Kevin." Rachel stared at them, not comprehending at first what they were getting at. "I'm not sure what you mean. Kevin left us well provided for." "Yes, well, that's what we wanted to discuss," her father said, leaning forward. "Your mother and I are getting older. Our retirement fund took a hit in the last market downturn, and with healthcare costs what they are." The implication hung in the air for a moment before Rachel understood. "Are you asking me for money now?" Her mother had the grace to look slightly embarrassed, but her father pressed on. "We thought, given Kevin's position at the firm and his life insurance policy, that you might be in a position to help family. After all, we are your parents." The audacity of their request left Rachel momentarily speechless. Her husband wasn't even cold in his grave, and they were here with their hands out. How much are you thinking? Rachel asked, her voice flat. Her father, apparently missing her tone completely, brightened. Well, we were thinking something substantial would make sense. Perhaps 50% of the life insurance payout. That would secure our retirement and leave plenty for you and Lily. 50% of my widowed daughter's support. To secure your retirement. Rachel repeated the words slowly, making sure she understood. The daughter you couldn't be bothered to comfort when her husband died because you were at a birthday party. Her mother flinched, but her father remained unperturbed. Now, Rachel, there's no need to be emotional about this. It's just practical financial planning. And we did come to the funeral. How generous of you to attend my husband's funeral, Rachel said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. We raised you, Rachel, her mother interjected. We paid for your college education. We helped with the down payment on your first house. I think we deserve some consideration now that you've come into money. Come into money. My husband died, Rachel was shouting now, all the hurt and rage of the past 2 weeks boiling over. I didn't win the lottery. I lost the love of my life. The father of my child. And you're treating it like I hit some financial jackpot. Her father's expression hardened. There's no need to be dramatic. Kevin knew the risks with his heart condition. He should have taken better care of himself. And now that he's gone, it's just practical to discuss how his assets should be distributed. Family should help family. In that moment, as her father casually blamed Kevin for his own death while simultaneously trying to profit from it, something snapped inside Rachel. The grief that had left her passive and numb for 2 weeks suddenly crystallized into razor-sharp clarity. Get out, she said quietly. Rachel, be reasonable, her mother began. Get out of my house. Rachel screamed, the force of her anger physically propelling her to her feet. How dare you come here asking for Kevin's money? How dare you blame him for dying? He was worth 100 of you. And you couldn't even be bothered to comfort your own daughter when she was breaking apart. Rachel's parents looked genuinely shocked at her outburst. They had never seen her truly angry before, having raised her to be accommodating, to avoid conflict, to be the good daughter, while Sophia got to be the demanding one. We're only asking for what's fair, her father said stiffly, standing up. We're your parents, Rachel. We deserve respect. Respect is earned, Rachel replied, her voice shaking. And you've earned none. Now get out before Lily comes home and hears what kind of people her grandparents really are. They left in a huff, her mother making noises about Rachel being ungrateful and her father muttering about reconsidering their relationship. Rachel closed the door behind them and sank to the floor, trembling with rage and hurt. That afternoon, when Rachel picked Lily up from school, her daughter seemed more withdrawn than usual. In the car, Lily finally spoke up. Mommy, why were Grandma and Grandpa at our house today? Rachel's heart sank. You saw them? The child nodded. Mrs. Wilson let me go to the bathroom during math and I saw their car from the school window. Did they bring something for us? That innocent question broke Rachel's heart anew. No, sweetie, they just came to talk to me about some grown-up things. Did they ask about Daddy's money? Lily asked, surprising Rachel with her perception. What makes you say that? Lily looked down at her hands. I heard Grandpa at the funeral telling Uncle James that we would get lots of money because Daddy died. Is that true? The fact that Rachel's 8-year-old daughter had overheard such a conversation made her physically ill. Lily, your daddy made sure we would be taken care of. Yes, but money doesn't make up for not having him here with us. The child nodded sagely. I would give all the money in the world to have Daddy back. Me too, baby, Rachel whispered. Me too. That night, Rachel called Marcus, who had returned to Japan but was planning to come back for an extended stay during his summer break to help them adjust. Rachel told him about her parents' visit and their blatant demand. Are you kidding me? He exploded. They want half of Kevin's life insurance? That's insane. Rachel, I know. I still can't believe they actually asked. But I'm worried they might not let it go. My father can be very stubborn when he thinks he deserves something. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Kevin talked to me about his financial planning. You know, he was very thorough. He wanted to make sure Lily would be taken care of through college and beyond if anything happened to him. He would be furious about your parents trying to take that security away from her. I know, Rachel said softly, the familiar ache of missing Kevin intensifying. I think I need to talk to Thomas about the legal situation just to be prepared. That's a good idea, Marcus agreed. And Rachel, don't let them manipulate you. Kevin protected you and Lily for a reason. The next day, Rachel met with Thomas at his office. He was sympathetic, but not surprised by her parents' behavior. Unfortunately, I see this kind of thing more often than you'd think, he said, reviewing Kevin's will and insurance documents. But I can assure you, everything is airtight. Kevin designated you as the sole beneficiary of his life insurance and retirement accounts. Your parents have absolutely no legal claim to any of it. Could they contest the will? Rachel asked, worried. Thomas shook his head. The will is clear and properly executed. And even if they tried, they have no grounds. Kevin was of sound mind. And parents have no automatic right to inherit from adult children, especially when there's a spouse and child. That reassurance should have made Rachel feel better. But as she left Thomas's office, her phone buzzed with a string of text messages from her parents and, surprisingly, from Sophia, from her father. We need to discuss this situation like adults. Call me. From her mother. I raised you better than this. Rachel, family comes first. From Sophia. You've always been selfish. But this is low even for you. Mom and Dad deserve better. The hypocrisy of Sophia, who had barely looked up from her phone during Kevin's funeral, accusing Rachel of being selfish, was almost laughable. Almost, if it weren't so painful. That evening, as Lily and Rachel were eating dinner, her father called. When Rachel didn't answer, he left a voicemail demanding a family meeting at their house on Sunday afternoon. This concerns all of us. Rachel, be there at 2 o'clock. Bring Lily. Rachel set the phone down. Her appetite gone. Involving Lily in this ugly situation was the last thing she wanted. But maybe it was time to have everything out in the open. To make a final break if necessary. With Thomas's reassurance about the legal aspects, Rachel felt more confident in standing her ground. Was that Grandpa? Lily asked, pushing her peas around her plate. Yes, Rachel admitted. He wants us to come over on Sunday. Lily was quiet for a moment, then asked, do we have to go? The fact that her daughter, who had once loved visiting her grandparents, now seemed reluctant, spoke volumes. I think we should, Rachel said carefully. Sometimes it's important to face difficult situations directly. The child nodded, a look of determination crossing her face that reminded Rachel painfully of Kevin before an important client meeting. Okay, but can I bring something with me? I have an idea. What kind of idea? Rachel asked, curious about her sudden intensity. Just something Daddy taught me about standing up for yourself. She said cryptically. Can I use the computer after dinner? Agreed. Rachel wondered what her 8-year-old was planning, but trusted that whatever it was, it came from the good heart and strong values her father had helped instill in her. The days following her parents' visit were filled with conflicting emotions. Grief for Kevin remained a constant heavy weight, but now it was complicated by anger and betrayal toward her family. In quiet moments when Lily was asleep, Rachel found herself revisiting memories from childhood, seeing them in a new, harsh light. There were the dance recitals where her parents left early to make it to Sophia's softball games. But never the other way around. The Christmas when Rachel received practical clothes while Sophia got the expensive art supplies they both had asked for. The way Rachel's academic achievements were expected while Sophia's average grades were celebrated as trying her best. Small inequities that seemed insignificant individually but formed a pattern when viewed collectively. Rachel called Amanda, Kevin's assistant, who had become a friend in the weeks since his death. Am I overreacting? She asked her after explaining her parents' demand. Is it normal to feel this angry? Or is it just grief making everything worse? Rachel, Amanda said firmly, if my parents had done that to me, they'd be dead to me. What they did is beyond inappropriate. It's cruel. Her validation helped, as did a long conversation with Marcus that evening. He was planning to take a leave of absence from his teaching position to come stay with them for a few months. A kindness that brought Rachel to tears. Kevin made me promise, he explained, years ago, when you were pregnant with Lily. He made me swear that if anything ever happened to him, I would be there for you both. I intend to keep that promise. The contrast between Marcus's loyalty to his brother's wishes and her own parents' behavior couldn't have been starker. Meanwhile, Lily had been unusually focused on some project she was working on in her room. Hunched over her desk with colored pencils and paper. When Rachel asked what she was doing, she just smiled secretively and said, something important for Sunday. On Saturday, Rachel decided to review Kevin's financial documents more thoroughly, wanting to be fully informed before the confrontation with her family. Kevin had been meticulous about their finances, keeping everything organized in a home office filing cabinet. As Rachel went through the folders, she found a sealed envelope with her name on it in Kevin's handwriting. With trembling hands, she opened it to find a letter dated just 3 months earlier, around the time of his last physical. "My dearest Rachel," it began, "if you're reading this, it means the doctor's concerns about my heart were more serious than I let on. I didn't want to worry you, but I've updated our will and insurance policies just in case. Everything goes to you with provisions for Lily's education and future. Use it well, live fully, and know that my greatest joy was being your husband and Lily's father." Rachel broke down sobbing, both devastated that he had kept his health concerns from her and deeply moved by his foresight and care. Kevin had known there was a risk and had prepared for it while trying to spare her the worry. It was so typically him, both frustrating and loving in equal measure. The letter continued with specific instructions about the insurance policies and investments, but also included a paragraph that caught her attention. "I've set up a separate trust for Lily that can't be accessed until she's 25. Except for education expenses. This is important. Rachel, your father has approached me twice about investment opportunities that were thinly veiled requests for money. I declined politely, but he seemed to think my death would create an opportunity for him to access funds through you. Don't let that happen. Your parents have made poor financial choices for years, and while I sympathize, Lily's future cannot be compromised to bail them out." The revelation that her father had already tried to get money from Kevin while he was alive added another layer of betrayal. Kevin had protected her from this knowledge, probably trying to preserve her relationship with her parents. Even in this, he had put her feelings first. Armed with this new information, Rachel called Thomas again to verify that the trust Kevin mentioned was indeed secure from any claims. He assured her it was ironclad and also suggested she bring a copy of Kevin's letter to the family meeting. "It's not legally necessary," he explained, "but it might be useful to have Kevin's explicit wishes documented if they try to pressure you emotionally." Sunday morning arrived with a sense of impending confrontation. Lily was unusually quiet as they got dressed, but there was a determined set to her small shoulders that reminded Rachel of Kevin before an important client meeting. "Are you sure you want to come?" Rachel asked her one last time as they prepared to leave. "You could stay with Ellen instead?" Lily shook her head firmly. "I need to be there, Mom, for Daddy." On the drive to her parents' house, Lily clutched a manila envelope to her chest, still refusing to tell Rachel exactly what was inside. The contrast between the behavior of Rachel's own family and that of Kevin's family became painfully evident, highlighting a chasm of empathy and support. While Rachel's parents and sister, Sophia, consistently demonstrated selfishness and a shocking lack of compassion, Kevin's brother, Marcus, and his parents, Diana and Robert, proved to be unwavering pillars of genuine, unconditional support. This stark difference was a source of profound emotional pain for Rachel, making her already unbearable grief even heavier. From the very first moment, the divergence was clear. When Rachel called her mother, sobbing uncontrollably after Kevin's sudden death, her mother's immediate response was to prioritize Sophia's birthday celebration. "We're celebrating Sophia's birthday right now. Can this wait until tomorrow?" she asked, her voice laced with impatience rather than concern. Her father's subsequent call wasn't to offer comfort, but to immediately inquire about Kevin's life insurance policy, asking, "Was Kevin's life insurance policy up to date? You should call the company first thing tomorrow." This mercenary attitude, focusing on financial gain when Rachel was shattered by loss, was a brutal introduction to their true nature. At the funeral itself, the callousness of Rachel's family was on full display. They arrived late, causing a minor disruption, and offered flimsy excuses about traffic and Sophia's difficulty finding an appropriate outfit. Throughout the service, Sophia was seen checking her phone, her father glancing at his watch, and her mother dabbing at dry eyes for show, their detachment glaringly obvious. Their behavior was a stark contrast to the genuine sorrow expressed by Kevin's colleagues and friends, many of whom were openly weeping. It was as if they were attending an inconvenient social obligation rather than mourning the loss of a son-in-law and brother-in-law. In sharp relief stood Kevin's brother, Marcus, having flown all the way from Japan, arriving just hours before the service. He looked utterly exhausted and hollow-eyed, a true picture of raw grief. He sat next to Lily, holding her hand throughout the service, their identical blue eyes filled with genuine tears. Marcus's presence alone was a testament to his profound love for his brother and his immediate instinct to support Kevin's family. He didn't offer superficial condolences, he simply was there. A silent, strong anchor for Lily and Rachel. The financial demand made by Rachel's parents 2 weeks after the funeral cemented the painful reality of their priorities. They arrived unannounced, not to offer solace, but to lay claim to Kevin's life insurance payout. Her father, oblivious to Rachel's thinly veiled anger, confidently suggested they take 50% of the payout, plus an additional 15% for Sophia, to secure their retirement and alleviate Sophia's financial woes. After all, we are your parents, her father stated, asserting a right to her husband's death benefits. This brazen request, made while Kevin's grave was still fresh, was the ultimate act of betrayal, demonstrating a profound lack of empathy and an astonishing sense of entitlement. While Rachel's parents were consumed by their own financial anxieties and desires, Kevin's parents, Diana and Robert, approached their grief with grace and unwavering support for Rachel and Lily. Despite losing their only son, their focus remained on the well-being of their daughter-in-law and granddaughter. At the funeral reception held at Rachel's house, Diana took charge of caring for Lily, ensuring she ate and shielding her from well-meaning but overwhelming guests. Robert quietly organized the cleanup after the guests had left, staying until the very end. They didn't seek attention or demand favors, they simply acted with love and practical care. Recognizing Rachel's immense burden, even the small, quiet gestures from Kevin's family underscored the vast difference. Marcus, upon hearing of Rachel's parents' demands, was furious on her behalf and immediately reiterated a promise Kevin had made him years ago, to always be there for Rachel and Lily if anything happened to him. Marcus's decision to take a leave of absence from his teaching job in Japan to come stay with them for several months brought Rachel to tears of relief and gratitude for such selfless loyalty. This act of genuine commitment to Kevin's wishes stood in stark contrast to Rachel's own parents, who had prioritized a birthday party and then sought to exploit her tragedy for financial gain. The starkness of this comparison revealed a painful truth for Rachel. While she shared blood with her parents, the true meaning of family, unconditional love, empathy, and unwavering support in times of crisis, resided with Kevin's family. Her own parents had failed to provide the bedrock of support she desperately needed, proving themselves unworthy of that role. The wound of their betrayal felt like a physical absence, a void where familial love should have been. As Rachel navigated the complexities of grief and the practicalities of a life without Kevin, the warmth and consistent presence of Marcus, Diana, and Robert became her lifeline, a testament to the bonds forged by shared humanity and genuine affection. Rather than mere kinship, the intense confrontation at Rachel's house, when she forced her parents and Sophia to leave, marked a painful but necessary turning point. In that moment, Rachel felt a strange sense of liberation. The pain and indignation that had accumulated over the past 2 weeks finally erupted. However, it also left a heavy void and deep disappointment regarding those she once believed were her anchors. Lily, with the sensitivity of an 8-year-old, quickly sensed the tension in the relationship between her mother and grandparents. Her question about whether they asked about Daddy's money again confirmed that their indifference and calculations were not hidden. After that argument, a prolonged silence enveloped Rachel's relationship with her parents. There were no apologetic calls, just a few generic texts like, "Thinking of you," or "Hope you're doing okay," empty words that couldn't compensate for their absence in her darkest hour. Rachel knew she couldn't continue to tolerate such selfishness and opportunism. She was already heartbroken from losing Kevin. She couldn't let her own flesh and blood hurt her further. However, the most unexpected change came from Rachel's parents and Sophia themselves. After Lily bravely presented her invoice of love and support, something seemed to shift. Initially, it was likely shock and embarrassment at being exposed by a child. But gradually, a change began to appear. Calls were no longer just superficial inquiries or financial demands. Her parents started asking about Lily, about how she was coping with the grief. They began offering to help with small things, like taking Lily to school or preparing meals. These initial gestures were awkward and filled with apprehension, but Rachel recognized them as a start. One afternoon, Rachel received a handwritten letter from her mother. It wasn't a brief text, but a long, emotional letter, Her mother wrote about her regret, about the shame of not being there for her daughter in her darkest moment. She admitted that she and Rachel's father had been too focused on their own financial worries and Sophia's birthday celebration, neglecting Rachel and Lily's pain. She recalled beautiful memories of Kevin, the things she cherished about him, and said she had realized her mistakes. Rachel cried profusely while reading that letter, not out of pain, but out of relief, because finally, she felt a glimmer of genuine remorse from her mother. Subsequently, perhaps prompted by Lily's words or their own introspection, Rachel's parents suggested family therapy. Rachel hesitated. The wounds were still too deep. But Marcus, who had always been a wise and supportive brother-in-law, encouraged her. You don't have to forgive them immediately, Rachel, but giving them a chance to understand and change might help you heal your own wounds. With Marcus's support, Rachel agreed. The initial family therapy sessions were difficult. Tears flowed, bitter words were spoken, and old wounds were ripped open. Rachel didn't hesitate to express her disappointment and sense of betrayal. Her parents, under the guidance of the therapist, gradually had to confront their selfish behaviors. They had to hear what Rachel had gone through, what Lily had overheard, and the consequences their absence had caused. Most surprisingly, Sophia also participated. Initially, she was defensive, making excuses about jealousy and feeling left behind during their childhood. But as she listened to Rachel speak about her pain and loss, she began to soften. She admitted that she had always felt jealous of Rachel's connection with Kevin and how he always put Rachel and Lily first, something she had never truly experienced from her parents. The reconciliation process was slow and challenging. No miracles happened overnight, but gradually, walls began to crumble. Rachel's parents started showing genuine concern, not just with words but with actions. They spent quality time with Lily, not just perfunctory visits. They listened to Rachel, without interrupting or judging. They learned to respect the boundaries Rachel set, understanding that love didn't equate to entitlement. Rachel and Lily re-established a relationship with Rachel's parents, but it was based on new, clear terms. She had learned that love couldn't be forced, and respect had to be earned. Her parents eventually sent a heartfelt apology letter, not only to Rachel but also to Lily, acknowledging the pain they had caused and promising to strive to be better grandparents and parents. During this process, Rachel also found a way to honor Kevin and transform her pain into something meaningful. With the help of Marcus and Kevin's family, they established a charity foundation named after Kevin, dedicated to supporting families who have experienced sudden loss and providing financial counseling to those in need. This foundation was not only a way to remember Kevin's compassion and concern for others, but also a means for Rachel and Lily to turn their heartbreaking experience into a source of hope and help for others. Establishing the foundation was a crucial part of Rachel's healing journey. It helped her channel her grief into a positive purpose, keeping Kevin's legacy alive. Lily also participated in the foundation's activities, feeling proud to carry on her father's spirit. Though the scars of betrayal remained, Rachel learned to accept them and move forward. She understood that family isn't just about blood, it's about those who truly stand by you when you need them most. Kevin's family taught her that lesson through their actions, and her own family, after much suffering and many mistakes, was finally learning it too. Their reconciliation was an ongoing process, but it had begun, rooted in genuine remorse and a sincere effort to make amends.